Since the Supreme Court struck down a ban on sports gambling in 2018, 32 states and the District of Columbia have legalized it, either in person, online, or both. Oklahoma is not yet one of them. Will it happen here, and why hasn't it already? And what's the downside to more gambling in Oklahoma? A lot to discuss, so let's get after it with moderator Susan Cadeau and her in-depth panel of guests.
Thank you, Rich. We have an esteemed panel to discuss this issue that is coming up again in Oklahoma. And I'd like to introduce them to everyone right now. First, we have Chairman Matthew Morgan, who is chairman of the Oklahoma Indian Gaming Association. We have Representative Ken Luttrell, Republican from Ponca City, who is the author of House Bill 3008, proposing legalization of sports betting. We have Dr. John Holden, an assistant professor at the OSU Spears School of Business, who is an expert on the sports betting industry. And then we have Wiley Harwell, who is the executive director of the Oklahoma Association on Problem Gambling. That is an organization that offers help and support to those struggling with gambling addiction. Gentlemen, thank you all for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Well, I want to start with a little bit of information for our viewers. Oklahoma has talked about sports gambling before. It came up most recently as an issue between the tribes and Governor Kevin Stitt during the governor's challenge of the existing gaming compacts challenge. And that challenge was struck down by the Oklahoma Supreme Court a year ago. So we want to start with Matthew Morgan. Where did those negotiations leave Oklahoma with regard to sports gambling?
I think the previous discussions, I think we kind of put a pin in those discussions to have at a later date. As Representative Luttrell said through his press releases, we think it's a great time to have a conversation about the topic and see if there's interest from both sides in moving something forward.
What kind of path forward was left for the industry, Matthew?
Well, the unique way that Oklahoma's law works is we have to wait on an offer from the state. And so, I think the industry has looked around the country, see what's happening, has done a lot of due diligence, but it's really waiting on the state to see, one, if they have an appetite, and two, what does that offer look like?
All right, Representative, I want to come to you next. You've introduced this bill, and I think the big factor has been who would control and tax this industry. Does the bill lay that out?
The bill has a simple language in it. It goes along with the existing compacts in the percentage that we put in the bill, 10%. Felt like that was a fair place to at least start negotiations with the tribes and between the tribes and the state. Ensure that we have a level playing field with the states around us as far as the gaming that's offered in our state and other states. And Mr. Morgan's familiar with some of the discussions we've had about bringing out-of-state income into Oklahoma, keeping our gambling income in Oklahoma. We've explored some of the dollar amounts that are being spent on illegal sports gambling in Oklahoma, money that's being sent out of state, people that I've talked to that are online sports bettors and send their money out of state every weekend. And we want to put a stop to that. We want to take advantage of that and benefit our Oklahoma citizens, our Oklahoma tribes.
Well, Dr. Holden, I want to come to you next on that because we are going to talk about the monies involved. But right now, several states do have legalized sports betting. Do you know how many and how they're faring?
Yes. So right now we have 30 states who are operational with sports betting, plus the District of Columbia. We also have 3 states waiting to come online with Nebraska, Ohio, and then the state of Florida is currently litigating a sports betting compact with the Seminole Tribe of Florida against a third-party gaming operator in the state. So they had it, it's gone away, they're fighting to bring it back. So it's continued to expand. We've seen virtually every state introduce some form of sports betting legalization since the Supreme Court's ruling in 2018.
Well, I want to ask, and as we were discussing this topic beforehand amongst the journalists here at Oklahoma News Report, I was asking, can't you just go online, and anyone can answer this, can't you just go online and place a sports bet anywhere in the nation or the world, or is that restricted in Oklahoma? Are you not supposed to do that?
So, yes, Americans can and have been for many years logging onto their computers and betting at websites in the Caribbean, Central America, South America, those companies that serve American customers are violating a federal law called the Wire Act that's been around since 1961. So there's always risks with people betting offshore. You don't know the reliability of them. They're unregulated, so the protections for the consumer aren't there that you would see in a regulated market. And the other thing is, we don't have problem gambling restrictions on these websites either, because they don't have to follow US law. I think another big aspect of that offshore gambling scene is that's tax money coming out of the United States, going untaxed to these offshore operators. Now, it's important to note when we're talking about Oklahoma, the state can't tax the tribes, so there would have to be a revenue sharing agreement in order for the tribes to pay 10% to the state, or whatever number ends up being agreed upon.
I know there's more to dig into there, but I want to bring Mr. Harwell into the conversation, because there's another side of the coin when it comes to gambling besides just revenue streams. And I'd like for you to share that side of the coin with all of us, Mr. Harwell.
We work very closely with our tribes that are members of our organization, because responsible gambling is just a part of, and problem gambling is a part of the gaming industry. So we work very closely with them. On our recent survey, it's not recent, it's 2016, the prevalency rate in Oklahoma was 3.2% of the adult population that qualified having a gambling disorder, which is the official diagnosis, and that's very high. But with 132 outlets or casinos, venues that have slot machines, that's really not that surprising. And last year, in an engaged study by the National Conference on Problem Gambling, it revealed that 34% of the adult population were already doing some form of sports gambling. And most of that would be online, but could be with bookies in their community and so forth. So it's not like this is something new. It's just that, legalizing it would be this particular point. And we would hope to have better guidelines for responsible gambling added to the amendment to the current compact.
So do you think that legalizing sports betting in Oklahoma would actually be better than folks going off to the sites like Mr. Holden talked about that have no regulation on them?
We do, because we have the ability to have responsible gambling guidelines when it's within the state's venue and, legislations through the compact.
All right, Representative, what is your feel? What is your vibe on the receptive, on other legislators receiving your proposal to legalize sports betting?
We had a gathering last night, fellow members of the Rural Caucus, and there was a lot of discussion about this yesterday evening. And certainly those fellow legislators that have a tribe in their district or have casinos in their district are very supportive of this. I think that our selling point on it, for those that have a moral stumbling block or feel that this is expanding gaming and that it's a bad deal, is the fact that this is all about economics, having a level playing field, driving income for the tribes, driving income for the state, the funding that we fund to your organization, Mr. Harwell, and that's one of the reasons that this needs to be regulated here in the state of Oklahoma. The tribes are in a perfect position to partner not only with the problem gaming organizations, but through their casinos and through their gaming authorities to continue to impact this and combat it.
Mr. Harwell, you spoke about language you'd like to see in the measure. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yes, well, one, more funding, because this will double the amount of clients that we will have that come forth. We would also like to see further participation in our statewide self-exclusion program. And that means if a customer realizes that they're in trouble, they can ban themselves from going to the betting outlet. And we have a statewide system. We have 20 tribes participating in that. We would like to see everyone on board for that, so that a customer doesn't have to go to multiple venues in order to self-exclude. So that would be very, very helpful. The funding would be number one, and training casino employees, which those are the things we already do, and we provide all the materials that are used for the rest of the compact agreements.
So it's not you against these entities. You all work together in lockstep to not only entertain, but to protect as well.
Absolutely. 60% of our callers to the Oklahoma Problem Gambling Helpline said that they got the number from the casino through our brochures and posters. So without their cooperation, without our partnerships, we would not be able to do what we do.
So, Mr. Holden,
And Susan,
oh yeah, go ahead.
if I could add to that a little bit, over 75%, I think, while we're at of gaming operations participate voluntarily in the statewide program that Wiley's organization, runs and helps. And then in addition, they donate much needed dollars to that purpose as well, to go along with what each individual tribe does. And so, I think, the partnership between our gaming tribes and Mr. Harwell's group, works really well. And everybody recognizes that responsible gaming is the goal. And that's the reason, a lot of these tribes have went out on their own and done all this already. And so, it's a subject I don't think anybody shies away from, that the industry talks about it quite often, understands the issue, and is willing to be at the table and have those hard conversations to see how we assist in helping that population.
Now, I want to come full circle back to the money. How much money in fees, and I guess, Mr. Morgan, I'll direct this to you, would the state of Oklahoma stand to make if this is approved?
So it really depends on what you're looking at in terms of the three fees that are currently under the compact, a startup fee, an annual oversight fee, and then the monthly exclusivity fees of where those fall. And, I think our members would be really interested in seeing, exactly how that breaks down. Oklahoma, as Professor Holden has talked about, is a very unique market. We have a lot of competition. We have a very small state population, and that means we bring a lot of customers out of state, visitors into our state to not only enjoy our entertainment offerings, but enjoy the other tourism and business offerings of the state. And so I think all those need to be taken into account when we're looking at things around sports betting. And then remember, sports betting is a very low margin business for the operator. I think that plays into it as well. And so when you look at all those things, I think my members are willing and ready to have a conversation, but depending on what that final form looks like is really going to impact what expected revenues are or what that fee structure looks like.
Dr. Holden, I'm going to go to you. Is there a ballpark
Sure.
figure of what Oklahoma would stand to make in fees?
I think one of the big things that we have to do is we have to look at sort of comparable jurisdictions around the country. And there's not a great analogy, to be frank. I think Mississippi might be one of the better ones. And they see a tax revenue plus sort of their revenue sharing at around $18 million in that tax revenue per year. The big money maker in sports betting is online. It's mobile betting. And that's not something that as of right now seems to be a great fit for Oklahoma because of our tribe. So we're looking at brick and mortar sports betting when we know around the country, 80% of the sports betting handle, or that total amount wagered, is being wagered online. So that's it. It'll be a smaller number than, say, a state like New York, which is expecting to generate, upwards of $300 million in tax revenue.
Oh, okay, I understand that. Thank you. Mr. Harwell, I'm going to give you the last word in our discussion today. What would you like to say to folks out there, not only about this legislation that's being proposed, but about the problem of gambling addiction?
There is free help in Oklahoma. There is $1 million set aside from money from the lottery as well as from the gaming compacts. And so any citizen of Oklahoma that needs help can get outpatient treatment in Oklahoma free of charge. We have been doing this since the beginning of the casinos, and that we are well versed now in helping people. The biggest problem we run across is people not know that help is available, not know about the problem gambling helpline. So promoting it in every way that we possibly can is part of our mission, and how we hope to contribute to our state is getting people the help that need it. Remember that 96% of the population, if they chose to gamble, could do so responsibly. It's always a very small portion of the population that's going to have a problem, but we need to help those people in every way we can, because the social cost, the family cost is tremendous.
One of the things that I neglected to mention was job growth and opportunities for employment. And as I've mentioned before to some of my other newscasters and stuff, is we're not just talking about the person that you meet face to face and hand over your money and place a bet with. We're talking about behind the scene jobs, technical jobs, IT people, support people, good jobs, good paying jobs that can operate in this industry for gaming industries that provide benefits, good wages. I don't have an estimate on exactly how many jobs that could be. It's been thrown out there, could be up to 3,000 jobs added across the state. And that excites me, the opportunity to put people to work.
Wonderful. Well, again, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us and having this very informative discussion on this measure being put forth by Representative Luttrell. Thank all of you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.